Robert, what do you make of this latest line that's just emerged of Prigozhin saying that he may consider turning his convoys back to bases? What have you found out about that?
Well, it's a touch of realism because maximum Wagner has only had 50,000 mercenary supporters and other ancillaries. And remember, they're highly active in Africa and the Middle East. They couldn't have sustained a coup which would embrace Moscow, the capital, although the capital is pretty scared. As of tonight, there have been shutdowns ordered, a partial shutdown of the internet, a lot of public transport travel has been restricted. So somebody's getting pretty worried there. But as you say, Aisha, it's been moving very fast. There have these reports that Lukashenko, the president, not exactly pure as the driven snow, in a very dubious position in Belarus, has been asked by both sides to negotiate. And it does seem that he's been in touch with Prigozhin. But as long as Prigozhin holds Rostov-on-Don and is not being pushed out, this is still very perilous for Putin.
So, I mean, what do we read into this? Does this mean that we should kind of, just calm ourselves in terms of, there's, I think, quite a sort of expectation that, there was going to be some kind of quite sort of bloody encounter, over the next 24 hours, 48 hours. Do you think that's looking less likely now, Robert?
It's looking less likely, but it doesn't mean that the problem has gone away for Putin or Prigozhin. There is a problem here, and I think you have to analyze where the problem is. It's just amazing that the Twitterati and people from quite established academic institutions have been talking rubbish about, it's like Caesar crossing the Rubicon, going into Rome to claim absolute rule as dictator. It's like Mussolini and his famous railway march on Rome in 1921, which led to him rising to power, though not absolutely immediately. And even a bit more arcane and recherche is the poet Gabriele D'Annunzio occupying Fiume, now Rijeka, in the peninsula in Croatia, which was at the end of the First World War. I think that's an awful lesson to us, Aisha. There are no parallels in this. I think that as Aldo Moro, the late statesman in Italy, said, parallel lines never meet. And I think that you really have to look at how this began and why Wagner made the move. And I think that that's what the Brits have been examining very carefully. What does it say about the state of Russia, but above all, the state of the war in Ukraine? And I think that actually we were onto this by last weekend. They were pretty clear that something was up.
And I mean, a couple of questions have come from our listeners, Robert. I wonder if I could just put them to you, because we've had great listening figures and lots of a very engaged audience. Elaine has put a really interesting question in, saying, do we believe Prigozhin when he said that Putin attacked his own troops? Or is that an excuse for this rebellion?
Well, there has been analysis of that, and the so-called video of Russian forces shelling retreating Wagner troops from around the Bakhmut area, Bakhmut, Zaporizhia. Those are known to have been doctored, so they've been photoshopped or whatever. But this doesn't take away, Elaine, from the point as to why Wagner is doing it. They have had a horrendous bloodletting. They have been in the Bakhmut pocket, where both sides got locked into a killing zone. The unfortunate term from 1915, 1916 on the Verdun front in the First World War was used. This is a meat grinder. But let's see what it means. And both sides have been losing an awful lot in quality. The kinds of forces, particularly since the offensive began, Kiev has been losing the kind of operatives, highly technical people, highly qualified people in normal civilian life. Really, that quality of person they can't afford to use. But the quantity is on the other side. And it is the enormous slaughter of particularly the mercenaries, because they were the sweepings of jails. They'd be convicts that had got out of jails. And this is finally, the penny has dropped. And this is not only where Wagner is affected, but also the families, I suspect, around those Russian troops which are now being asked to take the place of the Wagner forces along the front line in the Zaporizhia, Bakhmut, Advika
Right.
front, which is really causing this. And there have been various psychological blows, like the attack on the bridge in Crimea. So people are really worried. It is at a very shaky point. I don't see Putin giving up, but I don't see Prigozhin giving up at this point.
And so Prigozhin digs in. He may not go to Moscow. He may stay in those areas. What does Prigozhin do if he doesn't go to Moscow? What options are open to him?
Well, this is where it seems that he'll make it and just hold on for a few days, I think, in Rostov. And he's in Voronezh as well. But remember, Rostov-on-Don is the clue because it's the logistical hub. It's the logistical hub for the whole of the Southern Front and for Crimea. What he seems to me to be doing now is getting into a bargaining position. He's going to lay down his terms through possibly through Lukashenko. And first of all, he wants to get rid of those in charge of this military effort, the whole military campaign in Ukraine, particularly Shoigu, the defense minister, and Gerasimov, the commander-in-chief. And as he does that, it'll be interesting to see how much sympathy and outright support he gets from disgruntled Russian forces. It is a very open question, but the extreme on the Twitter, on the social media, which I've been getting, the ultra Putinites once said, "Oh, they should just get in with an assassination squad. They know how to do it and murder Prigozhin." Well, even if they could do it, that would be real trouble. They would create a martyr. There'd be a lot of problems. I do see a stack of problems now facing Putin, though.
And Robert, just something's just into my head, right? If, let's say, Prigozhin does let's just imagine this scenario. Prigozhin negotiates successfully, inverted commas, with Lukashenko, gets rid of Shoigu and whoever. In what world does Prigozhin then go, okay, I'll go back to fighting this war, which I've completely denounced?
You're quite right, because what does he do then? And this is where the picture really does become very interesting, very murky. Does he become Putin's favorite licensed warlord so he can carry on not only producing all these fierce fighters and who die in a ditch in Ukraine, but does he carry on with his various activities across Africa, Syria, the Middle East, and particularly Mali, where they're taking over the mines, including the gold mines? It's an enterprise. I tell you, whether it's legal or illegal, internationally recognized or not, Wagner is business, and it's quite a bloody business at times. And that's what Prigozhin and his immediate entourage will want to keep. He's a super oligarch in a funny way.